SunnahFollowers presents a new Hadith class taught by Ustada Laila Nasheeba, Riyadhus Saliheen, every Monday and Wednesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there. Streaming on all major platforms. Channel SunnahFollowers.
And tonight we're going to continue with the book of miscellaneous topics. We're going to cover chapter 36. Wa alaikum salam, Brother Abdul Qudus. We're going to cover chapter 36, which speaks about how the men of this nation are in charge of taking care of the members of the family. The last time we met for this class, we spoke about the kind treatment of wives, and we proved all the comments that the non-Muslims make about our religion, and how our religion views women to be lies, because we went over so many hadiths where our way of life commands Muslim men to treat women with dignity and kindness and respect. And we went over numerous hadiths where our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ordered the Muslim men to not abuse or beat or mistreat their wives. Okay, well, tonight's episode will speak about, how Muslim men are commanded to support and provide and maintain the members of their family. So again, if you know Muslim men who are not fulfilling their obligations, don't blame it on our way of life. You blame it on that man. Okay? That's a man who's not fulfilling his obligation. Okay? So let's take a look at all of these hadiths. Yes, go to YouTube. My channel is SunnahFollowers, all one word. Click on the live stream and you'll be able to see all the PowerPoints, all the hadiths that I'm using, and all of the hadiths. Remember, all of the hadiths in Riyadhus Saliheen are not authentic, and Riyadhus Saliheen can never be used as a source of hadith because it's not a source. So if I skip over a hadith, that's the reason why, because the hadith was not authentic. But any hadith that I do use is authentic, okay? And I always give the source. And we always begin, this is what makes Imam Nawawi's collection so popular. He always begins with the verses of the Quran that make everything maqasid. He begins with the verses of the Quran that lay down the objectives that you can take and apply to your personal lives and set goals for yourself with. Okay? And let's take a look at these verses. This is the first one from Surah Baqarah. Allah says, and the interpretation, the meaning, the father of the child shall bear the cost. Y'all see that? This is the interpretation, the meaning, the plain, simple English transliteration of the meaning. If you read the Fusha, this is very good transliteration. The father of the child shall bear the cost of the mother's food and clothing on a reasonable basis. Allah is letting it be known here that when the mother is pregnant with the child, okay, carrying the child, the father has to bear the cost of her food and clothing. Okay? Not only that, but even after the child is born, okay? And the mother is caring for the child, nursing the child. Okay, the father still must bear the cost of the mother's food and clothing on a regular basis. Now, does that sound like a religion that abuses women? No, it does not. So non-Muslims, you need to learn our way of life before making statements about it. Let's look at the next verse of the interpretation of the meaning. Allah says, let the rich man spend according to his means, and the man whose resources are restricted, let him spend according to what Allah has given him. Allah places no burden on any person beyond what he has given him. Again, plain English. The Fusha, the Arabic. This translates very well. Allah is basically saying that whatever money you can afford, however much money the man makes, you provide according to that. Allah doesn't put a burden on anyone greater than what he can bear. And that's something that you sisters need to pay attention to, because we're living in the days of fitan, where women are crooked. These are the worst women ever created. Okay? Remember, each generation of people are worse than the previous. If you were to interview women on the street today and ask them what are they looking for in a man, 70% of the women will say they're looking for a man who's rich. They want a man who's got money. Okay? The average Muslim woman will marry a man and think that he's supposed to give her all his money, that he's supposed to put her in a big house, buy her a nice fancy SUV, even though the man doesn't have that type of money. He doesn't have that type of job. He's supposed to provide for you according to what he can afford. A lot of you sisters, and I'm talking to you desperado women, let's get real. Layla's gonna keep it real. I gotta keep it McCawsit. We're living in the days of internet. A lot of you sisters live on the internet. You don't live in the real world. You look for men on the internet, and you just don't look for average men. A lot of you sisters are looking at the popular men, the famous men. You're on social media, like I say, you're on their pages. You're on the famous, popular social media men pages, the imams, the famous speakers, the famous imams pages. And you know that these brothers got at least 3 wives. You know that these brothers have at least 20 children. You know that an imam doesn't make any money. Imams don't get paid no money. Most of the imam's salary is voluntary. Ask Dr. Jamali. He'll tell you it's voluntary. But you sisters, y'all cry and claim that you looking for a man to take care of you. How you wish you had a husband that could pay your rent. You sisters are working 2 and 3 jobs. You sisters got 3, 4, 5 kids from previous failed marriages. But you trying to pick up these famous brothers who have 3 wives and at least 20 children. And you think that these brothers can help you when they can't even take care of the 3 wives they have and the 20? Let's get real. Who can take care of 20 kids today? Who can take care of 1 wife and 2 children? More or less 3 wives and 20 children. And they living all over the earth. Come on, sisters. But you sisters are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, trying to get with these famous celebrity imams who are stupid enough to message you back. Because not all of them do that. Most imams I know don't even respond. Most imams I know are not going to respond back to you, sisters. I know Imam Kareem Abu Zayd would never respond back to any of you women. I know Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Atli doesn't respond back to any of these women. So I'm not saying that all these brothers would do that. Dr. Ibrahim Jamali would never respond back to no desperado woman like that either. So I'm not saying that all these brothers would do that. I don't get it twisted. But we do have some wayward men. I got to keep it real. There are some wayward brothers out there who got mental issues, or just men are men. Like the prophet said, every man's weakness is a woman. The one big fitna that Allah left behind, that Allah left on earth for a man is a woman. What man ain't gonna fall for the flattery and charm of a woman? She could have a kickstand for a leg. She could be a cyclops. She could weigh 10,000 pounds. But a man will still put a bag over her face, knock that kickstand down, flip her over, and have his fun. I mean, come on. That's just how men are. But you women thinking that you can change a man, that you can make a man with 3 wives and 20 children pay your rent, buy you a car, do for you when he ain't even got money to do for 1 wife and 1 child, molest 3 wives and 20 children. Allah says, a man ain't got to do for you except what he's able to do. You chose to hook up with this brother, knowing he had 3 wives and 20 children. Common sense should have told you he can't do nothing for you except kick your kickstand up and throw a bag on you and turn you over. That's all he can do, sisters. You should have known that's all you were getting. And that's what I have to tell you, sisters. You should have known when you messaged that brother, which you shouldn't have messaged him. You should have known when you WhatsApped him, which you shouldn't have WhatsApped at him. You should have known when you began your adulterous conversation with him, because that's what it is. It's adultery, because we don't have relationships like that in Islam. There are no boyfriends and girlfriends in Islam. There are no interacting relationships in Islam. You wanted a boyfriend. You got a boyfriend. So what is a boyfriend going to do? Flip you up in the air, throw a bag over your face, have his way, and toss you to the side. He ain't got nothing else to offer you, nothing else to give you, because he's got 3 wives and 20 children. And Allah said, even if he married you, Allah said, all he got to do is spend according to what Allah has given him. Well, in his case, Allah has given him nothing but a bunch of children and a bunch of wives. And his wives all live on welfare. And his wives are independent. He was smart. He married women who are independent thanks to the welfare system. Now you stay independent, working 3 jobs, taking care of yourself, and you just settle for being flipped up in the air and a bag thrown over your head once or twice a year. That's the reality, sisters. It's my job to make it maqasid, and I am. And there's the dalil. Let him spend according to what Allah has given him, because Allah puts no burden on any person beyond what he has given him. You knew what you was getting, and that's what you got. Bow and accept it. And Allah knows best. Also, in this verse, Allah says, whatever you spend of anything in the way of Allah, Allah will replace it. Here, Allah is letting the men know that whatever you do spend for the sake of Allah, Allah will double it back to you. Because it ain't easy to provide and maintain a family. All of us know that, because most all of us have worked. It's hard to go out and get a job. It's hard to stretch a paycheck. It's hard to go to the store and figure out how to take $10 and stretch it to buy $20 worth of food, milk, diapers, clothing, especially when you got 20 kids. So Allah comforts the man and lets him know it's a struggle, it's a hardship. But remember, whatever you do for the sake of Allah, Allah will replace it. You have to make sacrifices as a man. A man may have to go without buying a new car. You know, men like to have a new car. What man doesn't like having a Cadillac? But you might have to go without driving a Cadillac and get you an old beat up jalopy. You might have to drive a station wagon because you got 20 kids. So you might have to go buy you a 1985 station wagon to make that sacrifice, where the other brothers are driving a 2025 Cadillac that's loaded. Okay? But you doing it for the sake of Allah. You making that sacrifice for the sake of Allah, so you don't have a car note. You know, so you can, buy clothes for your kids to go to school. So you can pay tuition for your kids to go to college. So you can pay money, for your wife, to have nice things for herself, so she don't feel so run down. So whatever you spend, and you doing this because you know that Allah will be pleased with you for the sacrifice you're making for your family. So Allah's telling you, whatever you spend to make him proud, he will replace it. And then maybe one day you will be able to get rid of that 1985 jalopy station wagon and get you a little Cadillac. Subhanallah. That's encouragement for the brothers out there. So let's look at the hadiths that illustrate these points. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, $1 that you spend in Allah's way to free a slave, or that you give as charity to a needy person, or that you give to support your family, the one yielding the greatest reward of all of that is the one that you spend on your family. Subhanallah. A lot of us are always asking, what type of deeds can I do to make Allah, more pleased with me? And a lot of people may think, well, let me just go and make a donation to the masjid. Or let me go and donate some money, to the Cancer Society. Or let me go and put some money in the box over there for the orphans. Believe it or not, guys, the best charity that you can give is for your immediate family, your wife, your children. Your child needs a new pair of shoes. You get more reward buying a new pair of tennis shoes for your son than you would donating money to an orphan. How would it look? You're a child that's not yours walking around with a nice pair of shoes, but the child that is yours has no shoes on or has raggedy shoes on. That doesn't make sense. As the Prophet Muhammad said, charity begins at home with you and your family. How would it look that you go and pay the light bill of the mosque, but your family has no lights on in their house? How would it look that you go and feed a homeless person, but there's no food at home for your children, your wife to eat? So it all makes sense. You have to, how can you save somebody else's soul from the hellfire if you can't save your soul? Subhanallah. So, as the Prophet said here, the money you spend in the way of Allah for yourself and your family brings more reward than giving it to outside of the family to someone else. So think about that, guys. When you see that your children need a new pair of shoes. Now, if they don't need the shoes, that's different. If your family has food to eat, that's different. Okay? But if your family is lacking in food, lacking in a new pair of shoes, then you can give to someone who needs. Also, in the next hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the most excellent dollar is the one that a person spends on his family, and the dollar which he spends on his riding animal in the way of Allah, and the dollar then that he spends on his companions in the way of Allah. So in this hadith, again, the best money spent is the money you spend on your family first. And then after that, the money that you spend struggling in the way of Allah, fighting in the way of Allah. If we were fighting, if we had, when the Mahdi comes, and that's not for a while, when the Mahdi comes, the money that we spend getting arms to fight in the way of Allah, that's the second best money spent. And then after getting the money for you to fight, then helping the other Muslims to get things together to fight with, that's the third best. But that's only if when the Mahdi comes. Subhanallah. And that's a long ways from now. Let's look at the next hadith. Salama, who was one of the wives of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said, I asked the Prophet, would I be rewarded for what I spend on my husband's sons? Because I can't let them go here and there begging for food. The Prophet said, yes, spend on them, and you will be rewarded for what you spend on them. Now remember, these are her kids too. But again, Islam teaches us it's not the woman's job. I repeat, it's not the woman's job. I repeat again, it's not the woman's job to provide for the children or the family. In Islam, it's the job of the husband to provide and maintain the family. It's not the woman's job to have to work. A lot of you women here, you want to be like the non-Muslim women. You want to go out and get a job. And like I said, Khadija, radiyallahu anha, did not work. This is a lie. This is a sacrilege and a lie that many of you numbskull women slander Khadija with. Khadija did not work a job. Khadija owned a company. She owned a business. She hired men to work for her. Khadijah never traveled to do business either. This is another slanderous lie. She hired people to handle all of her business affairs. She owned a company. She inherited her father and her ex-husband's businesses. And she hired men to run and operate them. She had nothing to do with the businesses. She ran her home. She stayed at home and took care of her children. She was a mother and a wife. She had nothing to do with her businesses. She hired people to handle all of that for her. All she did was collect the money. So stop lying on Khadijah, radiallahu anha. She was the most perfect woman ever created. She knew her role as a woman, and she never wanted to be a man. She was happy being what Allah created her to be, and she was happy and content in her role as a mother, as a wife, and a female. Okay? Don't get it twisted, women of today. All right? And the same with Salama. When Abu Salama died, Salama, she also inherited his stuff, which wasn't much. But Salama, she also came from a noble family. And Salama also had money, because Salama was a businesswoman too. She wasn't a businesswoman of the magnitude of Khadijah, radiallahu anha. But Salama had her own business too. She used to make things out of leather, but she never left the home. She used to make baskets and clothing out of leather, and then she would give them to her servants to take to the marketplace to sell. So she had her own fulus, her own money too. Most of the Arabic women, especially the Qurayshi women were business women. Most of them were. But they worked from their home, because as the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, and what's the source? Sahih Bukhari. The Qurayshi women are the best of mothers. They never let anything come between them being a wife and a mother. So Salama had her own money because she was a businesswoman too. She was a noble woman too. So after Abu Salama died, wasn't no man around to take care of the kids, because the men are responsible for taking care of the children, not the women. So this is before she married the Prophet. So she asked him, she said, Abu Salama is gone. She said, so that means I have to take my money and spend it on the kids. She said, I can't have them going around begging for a handout. She said, will I get rewarded for that? He said, yes. And because your husband is gone and you'll be the one providing for them, you will be rewarded because you're providing for them. And it's not your job to do so. And you have no man to do so. So sisters, learn from this. You know, for those of us, and look at the source, all these hadiths are Bukhari and Muslim. So sisters, learn from this. It's not our job to take care of our children financially, but for those of us who have no husbands, to do so, we're getting double reward because it's not our job. So don't complain about it, because when you in that grave, remember, all of us are going to be visited by two men, an ugly man representing your bad deeds and a handsome man representing your good deeds. The simple fact that we women had no man to take care of our children, so we had no choice but to provide for them from our money. Those are good deeds that will visit us in our grave, and it may be in our favor then. So stop complaining about how I need a man. Most men ain't gonna take care of kids today. That might be a blessing for us. And don't think that hooking up with these famous imams off the internet who got 20 children and 3 wives, don't think they gonna take care of you and your children. That ain't happening. They can't give you a dime. You got to keep working those 3 jobs you're working. You're better off looking for a single brother, not none that's got 3 wives. Oxymoron. A lot of us suffer with oxymoron. Okay. Yes, Salama. You'd be surprised, all the Prophet's wives, you know, were business women, and they worked from home because that's what's the Quraysh women. They were merchants. The Quraysh were merchants. They sold goods from there, and they made them from home and had their servants sell them at the marketplace. The women didn't work outside the house. This is nonsense. I don't know who you sisters are learning Islam from. I was talking about that in my Zoom room before class. I don't know who you sisters are learning from, but you're not learning from people who are basing their teachings on the Quran and the Hadith. Islam is only based on 2 sources, the Quran and the authentic Hadiths. These people are telling you fairy tales. They're making up lies. The Prophet said to lie on me is not like lying on anyone else. Anyone who lies on me will take their seat in hell. To lie on the Prophet's wives, to lie on his companions, this is a grievous sin. So you sisters, as you're traveling around the world at these meet and greets, and you guys are talking and storytelling, making up lies about what the wives of the Prophet did, this is a serious offense, because they did not work. Not like that. These women were mothers and wives. The Quraysh women were the best mothers. Y'all better get up out of here with that crap. All right, look at this hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whatever you spend seeking the pleasure of Allah will have its reward, even if it's a piece of bread that you put in the mouth of your wife. Another thing for the brothers to think about, anytime you feed your wife, anytime you feed your children, you get blessings for that, brothers. Why come you men don't want to work? Why are you brothers trying to force your wives to go out and get jobs? Because you want to stay at home and play Xbox. You brothers want to sit up at home and play Xbox? You better get up off your rocker and go get a job and take care of your wife and children do your job as a man. Because again, when you in that grave, you're going to get that visit from that ugly man. And he's going to ask you, why come you didn't take care of your family? That was your job, not your wife's. And he's going to drag your soul into that hellfire. And I did a whole Q&A about the punishment of the grave. You will be in that hellfire until the day of judgment because you did not fulfill your obligation, which is to take care of your family. Also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when someone spends on his family seeking his reward from Allah, it counts as charity. All of that is good deeds. Any good deed is an act of charity, guys. You brothers are blowing away too many good deeds by not taking care of your families, not working. The Prophet said, neglecting your dependents is enough reason for a man to sin. You got all those children. How many kids you got? 6 kids. How many kids you got? 10. How many you got? 15. How many you got? 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And you ain't taking care of your children? How many wives you got? 3. How many you got? 2. How many you got? 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 4. Very few got 1, 3, 2, 4. And you ain't taking care of your wives? What's wrong with you brothers? This is a major sin. You are the provider. As the Prophet said here in Sahih Muslim, it is enough sin for a person to hold back the due of one whose provision is in his hand. SubhanAllah, you're responsible for your wives, man. You're responsible for your children. And then you crazy women, you marry these brothers that got 3 wives. I ain't talking about the ones that's already married to the 3. I'm talking about, now you sisters, you hooking up with brothers that's got 20 kids and 3 wives, and you thinking that a miracle that he's gonna fall down from the sky. You should have known he couldn't do nothing for you. He's a poor man. He ain't got nothing for you. Just kick that stand over, put a bag on her and flip her over for a couple of times a year. That's all he can give you. That's it. You were stupid to expect anything. What could a man with 3 women and 20 kids do for you? Except give you a hard time and a laugh. That's it. You crazy. You sisters are crazy. And you brothers. Whoa. Y'all want to know why Allah sent the war here? What would Umar radiallahu anhu say if he was living today? We talked about how Umar didn't play. When Umar was the caliphate over the Muslims, he didn't allow that type of stuff. He made sure that men did their jobs as husbands. He made sure that women did their jobs as wives. He made sure that men came to the mosque for prayer. If you didn't come for prayer, he wanted an excuse. You had to give him a valid excuse why you weren't there. If you wanted a divorce, you had to tell him why you was divorcing your wife. And it had to be a good reason. What would he say if he were living today to see how you brothers ain't providing and maintaining, and how you sisters trying to hook up with men who already got 3 women and 30 kids, and y'all thinking that he gonna help you? Oh my God, what a twisted nation we have become. We're ridiculous. 2025. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said 2 angels come down every morning. One of them says, "Oh Allah, bless the person if he spends something in place of what he spends." And the other one says, "Oh Allah, destroy him if he doesn't give in charity." And we talked about this hadith before. Every day that we wake up, there's 2 angels. One will bless us if we do a good deed. In other words, if we do something that's charitable for the day. The other will curse us if we do nothing that is charitable. Because again, any good deed is an act of charity. A smile is an act of charity. A kind word is an act of charity. Also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the upper hand is better than the lower one, because the upper hand is the one that gives, whereas the lower one is the one that's receiving. It's better to give than to always be receiving, asking for a handout. So these are all